We'll start. We'll start that again. Sorry about that. We'll take two. All right. So what we're talking about tonight is, thank you, Mel, my pleasure. And thank you, because that's why I'm here. So what we're here to talk about tonight is parents. And I want to be specific about what I'm saying. We're talking about returning to school. Not returning to school because it's COVID. I'm not that kind of doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not going to get into the information wars that are going on. I'm not going to talk about whether you should or shouldn't be vaccinated. You know what the CDC says. You know what your physicians say. You know what your circumstances are. You know what you need to do. I want to talk to you about the real responsibilities that parents in particular have to prepare your children for school. And I want to be clear about this because I really still am an educator. I'm not just somebody who gets on the internet or television or whatever other platform I'm on and talks about what should be happening in schools because I used to work in schools or because I work at a college or because I read a book or wrote a book or do blogs or podcasts or whatever. I really do still every in our schools. So we have schools. I'm an educator. Our schools are capital preparatory schools. They're charter schools in Bridgeport, Connecticut, in Harlem, New York, and in the Bronx. We also have a school in Hartford that we began this thing on. And so the information I'm bringing to you is developed over the course of a 20-year career in education. And I'm here to say that no matter whether it was COVID or not, the first thing you need to do as parents, you need to make sure your kids come ready to learn. What I mean by that is that you have to set the boundaries in your house. You cannot simply expect that they're going to go from summer when they were going to bed when they wanted to, waking up if they wanted to school when they have to go to bed at a particular time and wake up at a particular time without putting in place the proper structure that is necessary. Structure is important because when you send your kids to us tired and aggravated, they act tired and aggravated, and they are aggravating and they tire us out. We're people too. So when you send your kids to school, let them stay up late at night because you have no discipline and you don't have the courage to tell your kids to go to bed, because that's really what it is. Because you don't want to hurt your kids' feelings, so you don't want to tell them to go to bed because you don't want to set a bedtime. When you don't do that, you set your children up to fail. Not sometimes, not most of the time, all of the time. So your child comes in yawning and stretching and got a push on his face. He doesn't want to learn English first period. He doesn't want to learn math first period. He just wants to go to bed. And so you were surprised when what happens is somebody calls you 15, 20 minutes after you dropped him off. That's on you, mom. That's on you, dad. That's on you, grandmom, granddad, uncle, aunt, whomever it is at the crib. Send your kids to school ready to learn, which means the night before, tell them to carry their asses to bed. Go to bed. And if necessary, take their phones. My son will tell you that up to his junior year in high school, because he was going to bed late, I took his phone. Did he like it? No. Do I care? No. My job is not to be liked. I'm not running for office. I'm not running for dad. I'm not trying to be dad. I really am dad. And as dad, I got to do what I got to do. I got to make sure that he goes to bed. And when I let him sit there on his phone all night talking to whoever about whatever, one or two things are going to happen. Neither one of us is going to get any sleep because I'm going to keep trying to tell him to go to bed, or I'm going to set him up to fail. So first thing, go to bed. Second thing, make sure that your kids have done their homework. I know that sounds crazy, right? That I'm telling you to make sure your kids done their homework, because in many cases, your teachers didn't give you homework anyway. In so many cases, so many parents are saying, I wish they had homework. I wish they had something to do at home. And the reason they don't is because in many schools, people have given up on our kids. They've literally given up on our kids. If your kid's not getting homework, then his teachers are giving up on him 100%. His principal has given up on him. The deans have given up on him. If your kids don't have homework, then your school has given up on your child, in which case you got yourself a bigger issue. But let's just say they have. Let's just say they actually care about their job and they actually care about the kids. You have to check their homework. I know it's a drag. I know it's a drag to go and tell them to sit down, come here. And I don't want to. I already did it. I did it at school. If you did it at school, homie, let me see it. I can't, I submitted it. Then you can show me some way. If your school has Power School or some other student information system, you should have the login and you should be able to check your kids' scores. See, where we are now is we have too many parents who want to be their kids' friends. It's the most aggravating thing for us as educators. I don't care that you know the songs that your kids listen to. I don't want to see you do the dances that your kids do. You look dumb. You really do. It's not cute. Not cute at all. What I want you to do is set structure in your house so you can send kids to school who are ready to learn. Nobody needs that. Nobody needs a pal at the crib. Your son doesn't want it. Your daughter doesn't want it. Your niece, whatever, whoever it is in your house that you're responsible for, they don't want a friend. They want a parent. They want somebody in a position of authority. So what that means is you got to grow the hell up. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're 25 years old and you got a 5-year-old. Grow up. I don't care if you're 45 years old and you got a 16-year-old. Grow up. What that means is set structures in place that are necessary to make sure your children perform in school. Send them to bed on time. Make sure they've done their homework. And whatever your school's expectations are, for instance, if they wear a uniform, make sure they have their uniform. You don't want us calling you, and we don't want to call you. You don't want to have somebody calling you about a pair of shoes or a pair of socks or a belt or a blazer or a tie or whatever, or a Izod, whatever your school's uniform is or colors are. You don't want us calling you about it? Fix it at your house. Make sure your children don't leave the house out of uniform. You too often want your kids to like you. That's not how you're going to get there. Sis, I'm going to be real with you. I've seen too many parents parent through guilt. I've seen it. I've seen so many parents, especially moms, who are single moms, are raising their children by themselves. They recognize that the father is a lame because he's not doing anything to take care of the children. They feel guilty about having had children with a lame. And so they do what they can to overcompensate for that by overspending on the child or not wanting to add discipline to the children's life because they don't want to see the child sad. You are destroying that child. A rose bush is just a pricker bush if you don't prune it. You have children and they are as beautiful as roses, but they do need to be pruned. They do need to be disciplined. They do need to be shown how to grow up the right way. And there is a right way. The right way is to be disciplined and prepared for what it is that you have to do. Next step is your children have to respect authority. I recognize that in this day and age, authority is what most people submit to, what they decide they're going to listen to. Too many parents and children feel like it's optional whether or not you listen to what the people in your school say. Too many of the parents that I've seen, both in our schools and others, find themselves in a position where they feel like the rules are negotiable, that they somehow can determine whether or not they're going to follow through with what it is that they say they're going to do. They gave you break work. If you didn't do it, you don't get to come in and negotiate whether or not your child gets another opportunity to do it. If it was due on the first and it's the second, you're hit. That's it. Over. Earned consequences. When we understand that there are rules and expectations, when we understand that you have a responsibility to train your child to be able to mind, to be able to listen, to be able to do what it is that they need to do, you are putting your child in a position to be successful. You don't have to like that. It's just true. So many parents don't understand, or they understand it, but they seem to think that they can work their way around it, that there are times when you and your child's behavior is so toxic that nobody's even going to pull you aside and tell you. That's when people really have given up on you. They've really given up on you when you come into school acting all kinds of foolish and nobody even says anything. Nobody even pulls you aside and says, hey, sis, hey, bro, you want you chill? Like, kind of got to talk to you. When they stop doing that, They don't care. And you say, I don't care. They don't. You should care. You know why? Because let's say your kid's in high school. And let's say that you have created the kind of relationship between you and your school where you don't like them and they don't like you. You'd be surprised the opportunities that your child will miss out on. Simple. Scholarship that somebody heard about, guess who doesn't get asked to apply? Say you still don't care? A school comes and wants to talk to an athlete, and your child's an athlete. But people also see your child as an ass, and they see you as an ass. Coach comes in and says, hey, can you tell us about this child? Don't think for a second that the coach, guidance counselor, or whomever it is that's responsible for that child won't in some way or another convey their feelings about your child and the way in which you two conduct yourselves. We sent a young man to the NBA. True story. He's still in the NBA. And right before he was the 9th overall pick by the Detroit Pistons, I, as his principal, got calls from the NBA. I did. Right before they were about to sign a $100 million contract with this young man, I, his high school principal, was called. And they asked me questions, not just about the young man. They want to know about his mother. They knew about his uncle. They knew about his cousins. They knew about some of his friends by name. By name. A former FBI agent working for the National Basketball Association called me, this young man's high school principal, to ask me questions about his character. Every single time your child comes into school and can't pierce his lips to say good morning to somebody, every single time your daughter comes in and she's disrespectful to people, you don't realize how many opportunities are being blown. When I say send your children to school ready to learn, I don't just mean that they went to bed on time, that they did their homework, that they came to school in uniform. What I mean is that they came to school to be part of a community, one in which they add to the community. They bring their humility, they bring their hunger and their willingness to work together. See, it's free to raise a child who is a kind person. It's free to teach your child manners. I recognize for some people it may be old school, but maybe old school is the right school. Maybe it's old school because it survived so many other iterations of school. Welcome back to school. Your new school year. And if you know your child has been the kind of child who's gotten himself in trouble before, gotten himself suspended, detentions and the like, I recognize that our schools often over-suspend, over-discipline, and over-expel Black and Latin boys. There's no doubt about that. I also know that there are things that parents can do to help their children mitigate the behaviors that it is that they're using to keep them in trouble. So, think about what your year was like last year. Think about what went right. Think about what went wrong. Think about what you could do differently. Think about how you could bring your child better prepared for school. And when you do that, you will have taken the most important step in preparing your child for school, which is to think about yourself as a parent. There are no parenting experts. They're just people who are trying their best to be parents. I am in no position to judge you as a parent because I'm still a parent. But what I am is in a position to give you advice. And the advice is this. Parenting starts with you. Think about what it is that you contribute to your child's good and bad behavior. Work on what it is inside you that contributes to your child's good and bad behavior. And work to make sure that you do all you can to correct you first so that you can send your child to school ready to learn. I want to thank you so much for joining us for No Dumb Questions. We're here every Thursday night at 6 p.m. We usually have guests. We didn't tonight because we want to just have a very specific conversation with you about sending your kids back to school ready. In the future episodes, you will see some thought makers and individuals who I think you'll care a lot about because their opinions are ones that you've heard in other sectors. But here you'll hear them differently. Thank you again. Get your kids ready for school by getting yourself ready for school. Y'all take it easy.